We're going to spend the next couple weeks talking about the moon. So, over the next couple weeks, I want you to go outside in the morning, at night, during the day, and look up at the sky and see if you can find the moon. This is something that my son has done since he could talk. Every time he sees the moon, he needs to point it out to me. And I'm sure at some point in your life, you also looked at the moon a lot more than maybe you do now. But I want you to just for the next couple weeks pay attention to the when you see the moon in the sky and what shape it is. So today's video lesson we're going to talk about moon phases, what they are, and why do we get different shapes of the moon, which is hopefully something you'll notice if you're paying more attention to what the moon looks like. So no matter when you're looking at the moon, if you see the moon, no matter when, half of the moon is always going to be lit up by the sun. So we have half of the moon that we call the light side of the moon, or the day side, and the other side is called the dark. So since the moon is a circle, a sphere in the sky, half of it is always going to be lit up. Just like half the earth is, half the moon is too. But depending on where the moon is in its path around the earth, we're going to see different parts of that lit up area at different parts of the month. So the revolution, or the moon going around the earth, makes the moon look as if it's changing shape in the sky. We're just seeing different parts, more or less, of that bright side of the moon, depending on when we are looking at it. So a revolution, that just means going around. So the earth revolves around the sun, once a year. Our moon revolves around earth once a month. So because we see the moon at different angles, we're going to see different parts of the moon illuminated, and they're going to look like different shapes. And those shapes we're going to call phases of the moon, depending on what angle we're looking at the moon. So this is an image that you're going to see today and in the future. And it's just a diagram of how the moon is traveling around the earth in comparison to where the sun is. So no matter where the moon is, half of it is going to be lit up by the sun. So you see this half is always illuminated. Half is always illuminated. But if the moon is between the sun and the earth, or on the other side of the earth, we're going to see different parts of that illuminated side. The phases of the moon are going to go through the shapes in the same order every month, and it's just going to keep repeating every about 29 and a half days. So that's about a month. Every month we're going to see the same shapes in the same order month after month after month. And the same order comes through because that moon is revolving around the earth in the same path, the same pattern every month. So there's kind of 4 major phases of the moon and then some phases that get stuck in between. So when we start, or where we start the moon cycle, is the new moon. So this is the beginning of the moon cycle, and this is going to be when the moon is between the sun and us. So the moon is actually going to be up in the sky during the day, and we're not going to see much of it at all. So this is kind of those days of the month where it's real dark outside at night. You don't see the moon. It disappears for a couple of days. It's because of its location in the sky. It's very dark if you see any at all. So an example would be like this image. And I don't really like this image at all because new moon you won't see any. That you have a little sliver at the bottom. But new moon, start of the lunar cycle, no moon is visible in the sky. We see the dark side of the moon. And then if you wait a couple days, you're going to see more and more and more of that moon get lit up, and it's going to light up on the right-hand side until it gets to look like the moon is about half lit. And when it looks half lit, like this, we call that the first quarter moon. Sometimes people will say half moon, but that's not quite correct because half moon would be half of the moon is already lit up, So if you see half of the lit side, that's a quarter. So half is a quarter. So if the light is on the right-hand side, look up at the moon, the right-hand side is lit up, that's going to be your first quarter moon. We're going to wait a few more days until we get to the full moon. The next phase, my notes are out of order. I'll go back and fix that in a bit. But if we wait first quarter moon, we wait a few more days until we get all of that moon illuminated. This is when we're in the order of sun, earth, moon, and we can see that whole light side of the moon, the whole visible path. That's our big, bright, full moon. A few more days into the lunar cycle, you're going to see the moon starting to go from really full and starting to lose some of its light. So eventually you're going to get where now instead of the right half being lit up, you have the left half. This is going to be called the third quarter moon or the last quarter moon. It's just when we can see that left side being lit up instead. So those are our 4 major points. So we're going to go new moon, first quarter, full moon, third quarter. And then we have some spots in between. So in between new moon and first quarter, we're going to have what's called a waxing crescent moon. So the spots in between are either going to be called a crescent, which you're familiar with. Kind of anytime you draw a moon, you might draw a crescent moon. The other kind of mid-phase in the lunar cycle is called a gibbous, which is a word. It means like swollen or bigger. So gibbous just is the area between a full moon and a quarter moon where it's more than half full. So if you stick a waxing crescent moon, this would go between new and first quarter, and it's when our light side is getting bright. So I like to remember this catchphrase right here. It says, light on right, getting bright. You look up at the moon and you notice the right side of the moon is illuminated. You know that the next couple days the moon's going to just keep getting brighter and brighter and brighter, and that's called waxing. So if you've ever seen Karate Kid, the phase is like wax on. So if you have a waxing moon, it's increasing or it's growing larger. So a waxing crescent would be when we're getting brighter. We have a little sliver of light. We're getting brighter on that right-hand side, and we're moving into until we get to first quarter. So we're going to go new moon, waxing crescent, first quarter, and then waxing gibbous. So waxing means the light is increasing. The right side of our moon is illuminated. And this one you'll notice that it's more than half full. So more than half full, but not quite all the way there. That phase in between is called a gibbous moon. And then once we get to full moon and we start decreasing the amount of light back to new moon, we're going to use the word waning. So waning means decreasing or getting smaller. So this word sounds very similar to me as weaning, like weaning somebody off of something, like you wean a baby off of their bottles. So waning would be decreasing or taking away. It's getting a little bit smaller every day until we return to new moon. So this is our waning gibbous. The light is now on the left side of the moon, but we're more than half full. So it's a gibbous, waning, the light is on the left, getting smaller. We would go full moon, waning gibbous, third quarter moon, and then eventually we'd get a waning crescent, which is when we have just a little bit of light left on that left-hand side, getting smaller every day. So going through the whole lunar phase, this happens once a month, depending on where the moon is traveling around Earth, and we get this pattern of the moon phases. Feel free to listen to that song. It's a nice cheesy rap song about the phases of the moon. And if you want even more information, I have this video linked on Brightspace. It gives you 10 more minutes of information about phases of the moon and goes a little bit deeper than I did. But that is our video lesson today on phases of the moon. Have a good day.